Sure, she's one of the most powerful women in media. Her website, the Huffington Post, was a game changer. But the real sign Arianna Huffington is a cultural icon is right here. A sketch on Saturday Night Live.
What else would I be doing, sexy boy? I love to be on media things.
Because when you run America's biggest political news site, people are going to have a go at you. And so they have. Arianna's detractors say aggregator sites like the Huffington Post, partly powered by unpaid bloggers, are killing journalism. And in spite of that, the Huffington Post remains a daily must-read for the political left of center. Well, really center, with a slight lean to the left. And it's expanded over the last year. Huffington Post Canada, Le Huff Post in Quebec. And how's this for influence? During the last U.S. presidential campaign, both Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton wrote pieces for the site, hoping to win over voters. But what about the woman behind the empire? The woman who once campaigned for the Republicans before jumping ship to the Democrats. She's been labeled a sellout by some following the sale of the Huffington Post to AOL. How she deals with the personal attacks is something I want to get into with Ms. Huff as she prepares for what she calls her last act. Please welcome back to the show, Arianna Huffington. How are you? Nice to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
How's things?
Things are good and things are great with you.
Well,
you are just taking Canada by storm.
No, stop it. I don't have strombo.post.ca, which is what you have. This Huffington Post thing, is it bigger than you thought it would be initially?
Oh, definitely. I mean, remember, we launched in 2005, and one of my dreams was to go international, and Canada was our first, and then Quebec.
Yeah. Well, that's technically Canada. Right? But you mean in French, right?
But you know, what happened is that we actually launched in France before Quebec, so that we could do like a practice run before the important launch in Quebec.
Right, it's a good idea.
So it was Le Huffington Post.
I'm sure people told you that the French they speak in Quebec is very different than the French in France.
We found that out. We had to retranslate everything for Quebec.
It's amazing. You know, when you started, it was about this idea about the voice of progressives in a way. What does it mean to be a progressive in America now?
You know, actually, one of the things that we're doing now in our coverage is to break away from the idea that we have to see everything through the right versus left prisms. I mean, if you want the country to prosper and be successful, you want to solve these problems. And the idea of presenting everything as though it's only the left cares about that doesn't make any sense.
But you know that people have allowed themselves to be spoken to in that simple prism of right-left, haven't they?
Well, exactly, but we need to change it. You know, I believe that if we get a critical mass of people thinking and speaking differently, we can change it. And that's why when we cover the election, we are both covering the horse race, but we're also covering what's really going on, you know, the narrative that's important. And we challenge Obama. You know, Obama has not exactly delivered on a lot of the key issues that he was supposed to deliver on. And he escalated in Afghanistan. He wasn't bold enough when it came to the kind of investments needed to bring the country out of the recession. So we are not, we don't feel that we have to cheerlead for either party or any particular individual.
Let's play a clip from Obama. This is, I think, part of what him and his side claim is their frustration. Let's see how we feel.
So while there's nothing wrong with our country, there is something wrong with our politics. And that's what we've got to fix. We can't let partisan brinksmanship get in our way. The idea that making it through the next election is more important than making things right. That's what's holding us back. The fact that some in Congress would rather see their opponents lose than see America win.
It's an interesting place when the President of the United States of America says the politics don't work.
And there's something wrong with Washington.
Yeah, well, he
said
show.
that from the White House, right? Yeah. Yes, I mean, he's right that there are people who would rather defeat him than improve the jobs numbers, absolutely right. But he's wrong when he makes it appear as though he couldn't have done more.
Right, because that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
You know, when Obama was running, before he became the president, so much about that election was campaigning on hope. What do you think the mood will be in the next election?
It's going to be much harder. In fact, we have a series of satirical videos. I have to send you the link about the one on hope, because it was easy to campaign on hope in 2008. It's much harder to campaign on hope in 2012, when basically many people, millions of people, including African Americans, are worse off than they were in 2008. And how does he do that? I think that's going to be a big challenge. In a sense, he's now campaigning as the lesser of two evils. In 2008, he was campaigning as the embodiment of people's hopes and aspirations. It's going to be interesting to watch.
And so do you actually think the critical mass can affect change in Washington?
Oh, absolutely there is a chance. I mean, this is really a golden age for people to have their voices heard. I mean, it's amazing what we can do through social media. It's amazing what we can do when we organize around ideas that matter beyond left and right. It doesn't matter where you come from. No, I'm a big believer in that.
Is it? But that can be good and bad, because social media also doesn't have any burden of proof or any responsibility. There's no accountability in the world of social media, right?
Well, things are corrected. I mean, there are mistakes, but they're corrected. I also believe that there is a problem with social media, and that's we need to ask ourselves, what is it that goes viral? You know, we celebrate virality or something is trending, but what is it? You know, not everything should be going viral. So we are often very distracted by social media instead of focusing on what really matters. So I'm not in any way glamorizing it, right. But as a tool for social change, it's amazing.
What's incredible, too, is how it used to, even in some jokes now, people talk about social media as just a tool for teenagers to update their status, but it's really not. I mean, different generations have embraced this. Have you noticed this as well with your stuff?
Oh, yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, I have two daughters in college. One of them is studying modern Greek.
Modern Greek?
Yes.
Now, the language or the economy? Which one? Because if it's the economy, she's just learning swear words. That's all it is.
The language, but you know what? I just tweeted an amazing picture you would appreciate it of. There was a young man demonstrating in Greece about the austerity measures, and his mother was walking beside him carrying his coat so he wouldn't get cold. I like the way you're sitting. Can I try that?
Yes.
Like it's like
I'm very
leaning,
comfortable talking to you. It's very easy,
like
very relaxed.
Leaning a little bit like that. Very sexy, don't you think? I wonder if he practiced it. What do you think? Is it just like, it seems very natural.
Do I strike you as the kind of guy that practices that much?
Excuse me, did you see his shoes? I mean, I love the shoes. What are they? Can you do product placement?
No, I don't even know what they are. Oh. I just put them on. I don't really, I'm not good with that sort of thing. Oh, this whole thing? But
whole thing.
So, do you ever want to get into politics there and just say, look, we can make real change?
No, I don't want to get in politics anywhere.
But there was a time.
There was a time. But this is it. This is my last act. I love what I'm doing, because whatever it is that I dream of, we can make it happen. Can I tell you about my latest dream?
Sure.
So I'm really worried about people like you who don't sleep enough. So we're going to launch the GPS for the soul. It will be an app. You'll download it. It will give you sensors of stress, like if your heart rate is up, your blood pressure, your breath rate.
What is this? Now sleep aid?
But
what is this?
Stress reduction.
Is this because of you? Were you struggling with it and figured this out?
Yeah, I was. I actually fainted from exhaustion 4 years ago, and I hit my head on my desk, and I broke my cheekbone. I got 4 stitches on my right eye, and that started my reacquaintance with sleep.
Right.
And, you know, you guys, I don't know, I mean you personally, but guys generally have equated sleep deprivation with virility.
Yeah.
It's like they brag about it.
Sleep deprivation is actually affected my virility, I think. No, yeah,
don't tell us about it.
Yeah, okay.
But I remember having dinner with a guy recently, and he bragged that he had only gotten 4 hours sleep the night before.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I didn't say it, but I thought to myself, you know what, if you had gotten 5, this dinner would have been more interesting.
No true insomniac brags about their lack of sleep, because it does ruin their life. We'll come back. More with Arianna Huffington after this.
I think you're very well served, if I may say so, by your panelists. Reading from the end towards me, Arianna Huffington, who I've known as Arianna Stassinopoulos, Arianna Stassinopoulos Huffington, Arianna Huffington. F. Scott Fitzgerald was never more wrong, I've sometimes thought, than when he said there are no second acts in American lives. Arianna is here, I think we might say, to dispute that proposition.
Back with Arianna Huffington, Chris Hitchens, who was quite a brain, wasn't he?
Quite a brain. I can't believe how I looked.
What do you remember of Chris Hitchens?
He was a brain. He was, I mean, it was tragic because there was he had this whole adversary relationship with God. So when you die young, I mean, that must be something incredibly hard when you lose that battle.
Mm-hmm. Well, he lost the battle with life, not necessarily with God. He didn't believe there was one.
No, I know, but what I'm saying, when you lose the battle with life and you don't believe there is anything else, that must make it incredibly hard.
And so you believe there's something else?
Oh, 1,000%. You know what Carl Jung, the psychologist, said when Ed Murrow asked him, do you believe in God?
What did he say?
He said, I don't believe, I know. And I don't mean know intellectually, because you can never really know intellectually, but there is that deep knowing, you know, that we have about things, and that's the kind of knowing I have about the fact. Absolutely, there is something else. You think all that for nothing?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm also okay with not knowing. I don't. But do you have a name for the God? Like how is it a Judeo-Christian God? Are you down with what the Buddhists were into? Like what's your?
Oh, it doesn't matter for me what particular form your God has. You know, whether it's Buddhist or Jewish or Christian. The important thing is the recognition that there is a spiritual reality beyond our material reality, that life is partly this journey to learn more and more about it, understand it more, live it better. And that, for me, is what makes sense of a lot of things that happen in life.
Do you think a president could ever get elected with that as a religious approach?
Probably not in the States. Do you think here?
Yeah, I think there's lots of atheist prime ministers here. They just never talk about it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the media really asks them too much, which I'm comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
Because in a sense,
I think it's very personal. I don't think people need to talk about it.
You ever sneak on late at night and go in the comments pages and just start commenting back? Do you do that under a fake name?
No, I've never done that. But I look at comments a lot because, you know, commenting is one of the best things at HuffPost. Since our launch, we've had 140 million comments. You know, people love to comment, and our comments are pre-moderated, which means they're not taken over by trolls and ad hominem attacks. So, in Canada, we have had amazing comments, and we have a reporter, Althea, who is based in Ottawa, and she writes about politics, and she writes in 2 languages, so she can file both to Toronto and to Montreal. And she gets an amazing number of comments, but everything is pre-moderated, so there's no, the debate can stay civil.
Which is important.
Which is so important.
You've done a really good job. I mean, you've been at the forefront of a lot of things. You've been a leader. You've taken lots of criticism. How did you, when you handle the personal attacks that you received, you're good at them now. Were you always good at dealing with them?
Oh, I've gotten much better.
Yeah? It's hard in the beginning, right?
But here, yes, it's hard at the beginning, but when I have friends who enter the public eye, later in life, and they have to get used to attacks. And my advice to everybody is look at a child and see how a child handles being upset or angry. I don't believe in growing a thick skin. I think that stops you from really being permeable and feeling everything to the fullest. But a child, will get really upset and really cry, and then like 5 minutes later, it's as though nothing's happened. That's what I love. I love to live life like that. Okay, it's perfectly okay to be upset and angry and irritated, but how long do you stay on it? That's for me the key. It's like, can you say next and move on and not hold grudges? That's the other key. Oh my God, holding grudges is the worst.
It's a big part of the political landscape. Did you have to learn to do that, to let go?
Oh yeah, I had to learn. I worked at it.
Really?
And I really believe in it. I can't tell you, it's the most draining thing we can do in our lives is hold on to something other than upset or anger or judgments, I like what the Bible says. The evil of today is enough, let the dead bury the dead, move on. Like that's my advice to everybody. Okay, guys?
Good to see you.
Thank you so much.
Arianna Huffington, everybody. HuffingtonPost.ca is the website. We'll be right back.